The MMA arena was buzzing long before the main event even began. Reporters, bloggers, gym owners, former fighters, and fans from all over the city crowded every seat, eager for something different. This wasn't a championship fight. It wasn't a title defense. It wasn't even on pay-per-view, but the energy felt bigger than any televised match in Las Vegas, because tonight, the undefeated MMA champion Marcus Riker had publicly announced that he could drop Steven Seagal with a single punch. Not in a movie, not in a choreographed fight scene, but in real life, cameras followed Marcus everywhere as he strutted into the gym, sunglasses on, smirk wide, ego almost too big to fit through the doors. He waved at the crowd as if he were royalty. Fans chanted his name, but his attention was on the man who wasn't even there yet. He spoke loudly so everyone could hear. People worship this guy like he's some unstoppable martial arts god. But let's be honest, Hollywood makes anyone look tough. Put him in a real cage with me and it's over in seconds. His teammates laughed, slapped his back, hyped him up. Marcus lived for attention, and tonight he was getting all of it. A reporter asked, "So you're confident you'd win?" Marcus scoffed, "Win? I won't even need to try. I'll end it with one punch." The crowd roared, but not everyone was cheering. Some shifted uncomfortably. Others exchanged uneasy glances, and a few whispered what Marcus didn't want to hear. Steven Seagal wasn't an actor pretending to know martial arts. He had spent a lifetime mastering them. But Marcus didn't care. Just then, the gym lights softened, and a wave of silence rolled through the arena. The door opened, phones rose into the air, conversation stopped mid-sentence. Steven Seagal walked in. Tall, calm, hands relaxed to his sides, no security guards, no entourage, no showmanship, just presence, heavy, unshakable, commanding. Marcus grinned. Well, the legend finally shows up. Steven didn't respond immediately. He simply approached the mat, his steps slow and steady. When he finally looked at Marcus, there was no anger, no irritation, just quiet observation, as if he were studying a storm that hadn't realized how weak it really was. "You wanted my attention," Steven said softly. "Now you have it." The crowd let out a collective breath. Marcus stepped closer, chest puffed, chin high. "I respect the career, old man, really, but this is the real world, and in the real world I dominate." Steven didn't blink. Real fighters don't announce their strength. They demonstrate discipline. Marcus laughed, or maybe they're just scared to get hit. Cameras zoomed in, influencers went live, the internet exploded. Steven didn't reply. He simply removed his jacket, folded it neatly, and stepped onto the mat, not aggressively, respectfully. He bowed, showing tradition and honor, something Marcus hadn't even considered. Marcus didn't bow back. Instead, he cracked his knuckles. "Let's begin." Before anything could happen, the referee stepped between them. "This isn't an official match. No one agreed to." Marcus raised a hand. "Relax, it's just a friendly demonstration. He'll be fine." Steven's eyes didn't leave Marcus. He didn't need words. The referee exhaled, annoyed, and stepped aside. Marcus bounced on his feet, loose, confident, bouncing like a lion preparing to tear apart its prey. Steven stood still, calm, grounded, unreadable. No stance, no fists raised, just silence. Marcus smirked. "You're not even gonna defend yourself." Steven answered with a quiet certainty. "Defense begins before the strike." The crowd murmured. Marcus rolled his eyes. Whatever. Then it happened, fast, reckless, explosive. Marcus charged forward and threw a powerful right hook, the same punch that had knocked out 11 professional fighters. The technique was clean, the speed impressive, the force undeniable. People gasped. But Steven barely moved. With a subtle shift of his body almost too smooth to notice, he redirected Marcus's strike with a gentle motion, using Marcus's own speed against him. Suddenly, Marcus found himself stumbling forward, off balance, confused. The crowd erupted. Marcus steadied himself, face turning red. Lucky flinch. Steven didn't respond. Marcus lunged again, this time faster, angrier. He aimed a jab towards Steven's chin, followed by a left body shot. His technique was excellent, polished, trained, professional, but Steven didn't counterpunch, he didn't block. He simply dissolved away from every attack, turning minimal movement into perfect evasion. It looked effortless, fluid, like water avoiding a rock. Marcus grew frustrated. "Stop running and fight." Steven finally spoke, voice steady. "A fight only happens when both people choose one. You're fighting your ego, not me." The crowd fell silent again. Marcus wasn't used to missing. He wasn't used to being ignored. and he definitely wasn't used to being humbled in front of an audience. So he did what his pride demanded. He threw the hardest punch of the night. A fully committed right cross aimed at Steven's jaw. He wanted to prove something. He wanted to end it. His fist exploded forward and connected. The sound echoed. People gasped. Some screamed. Phones shook. Marcus's eyes lit up. He landed it. The legendary Steven Seagal had finally been hit. Marcus stepped back, smiling with victory. But Steven didn't fall. He didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. Instead, he slowly turned his head back toward Marcus, calm, steady, unchanged. Marcus's confident smile faded. Steven spoke quietly, but the entire gym heard him. "Now are you done?" Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years, fear. Before he could react, Steven stepped forward with controlled precision, using no aggression, just technique. In a split second, he gently redirected Marcus's arm, locked his wrist, shifted his balance and placed him on the mat face. Down, trapped, immobilized, but unharmed. Marcus tried to move, he couldn't. Steven used only one hand. The crowd went silent, stunned. Marcus's voice trembled. "What? What did you just do?" Steven released him and stepped back. "Something your training didn't teach you: humility." Marcus slowly stood, breath shaky, ego shattered. His fans watched in disbelief, unsure whether to clap, scream, or cry. He opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. For the first time in years, he didn't have a comeback. Steven gently picked up his jacket and turned toward the exit. No speeches, no celebration, no gloating, just quiet dignity. The crowd parted for him like water around a ship. Marcus stared, unsure whether he wanted revenge, guidance, or forgiveness. Because deep down, he knew Steven Seagal hadn't fought him. He had educated him, and this lesson wasn't over. You are watching Smile and Scars. If you're still here, make sure to subscribe, because what happens next will change everything. Marcus wasn't willing to let the story end like this. And the next decision he made would change both of their lives forever. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He didn't smile, didn't brag online, didn't post anything. For the first time in his career, silence became heavier than defeat. He replayed the moment over and over, not the throw, not the submission, not the humiliation, but the part where Steven calmly asked, "Are you done?" It wasn't anger. It wasn't sarcasm. It was disappointment. And somehow that hurt more than losing. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the gym before sunrise. No cameras, no teammates, no audience, just cold air and doubt. He stood in front of the mirror, staring at his reflection, the undefeated MMA champion, the viral star, the man whose ego had built an empire. But today, he didn't recognize the person looking back. His coach entered quietly. "You all right, kid?" Marcus didn't turn. "Everyone thinks I'm a joke now." "No," his coach answered. "They think you've finally been challenged." Marcus swallowed hard. "He didn't even fight me." "Exactly." The coach placed a hand on his shoulder. "Strength without humility is weakness in disguise." Marcus nodded, but the words didn't settle. He needed more. He needed answers. He needed closure. So he did something unexpected. He left the gym and drove across the city, following an address he had quietly pulled from a journalist the night before. It led him to a peaceful dojo located away from the noise, tucked between trees, built like a shrine rather than a training facility. He almost turned around, but something pulled him forward: curiosity, respect, maybe redemption. Inside, several students practiced silently on the mat, each movement precise, controlled, intentional. No grunting, no flexing, no yelling for attention, just discipline. Steven Seagal stood among them, quietly correcting posture, adjusting stances, guiding with patience, not superiority. His presence wasn't loud, yet everyone felt it. Marcus didn't speak at first. He removed his shoes, bowed respectfully, and waited. Steven acknowledged him only when the students finished training. "You came early," Steven said. "I needed to understand," Marcus replied. Steven studied him. "Understand what? Why you didn't hit me back?" Steven took a slow breath. "Because a fight is not always won by striking. It is won by knowing when not to." Marcus lowered his eyes. "I embarrassed myself." "No," Steven corrected gently. "You revealed yourself. There's a difference." Marcus exhaled, tension easing slightly. "I spent years believing power meant dominance. And now I'm not sure what it means." Steven motioned for him to follow. They stepped onto the mat together, alone, without an audience. No crowd, no cameras, no cheering, no pressure, just honesty. Steven placed his hands behind his back. "Show me how you stand when no one is watching." Marcus slowly lifted his guard, but it lacked aggression. lacked ego, it was honest for the first time. Steven circled him, analyzing. Your body is strong. Your technique is sharp. But your mind fights against you. Marcus frowned. How do I fix that? By learning instead of proving. Marcus nodded, and for the next hour Steven trained him, not physically, mentally. He taught subtle footwork, balance shifts, redirection, stillness, awareness. Marcus listened like a beginner, absorbing every detail. At one point, Steven lightly tapped Marcus's shoulder, and Marcus lost balance. Not because of force, but because he anticipated the wrong movement. You're too focused on the strike, Steven said. Focus on the intention. Marcus felt his chest tighten. The lesson went beyond fighting. Steven continued, your punch was powerful, but power without purpose is wasted. Marcus looked up. You felt it, yes, Steven answered, but power does not impress me, control does. For the first time the champion truly understood. Hours passed, the dojo emptied, sunset painted the world orange. Marcus stood in silence, humbled, changed. He finally spoke. I'm sorry for disrespecting you. Steven didn't look offended, only thoughtful. You didn't disrespect me. You disrespected yourself. Marcus nodded, absorbing the weight of that truth. Suddenly the dojo door burst open. Reporters rushed in, microphones raised, cameras flashing, shouting questions. Is Marcus here to challenge him again? Is there going to be a rematch? Marcus, do you still think you can knock him out? Marcus backed toward the wall, overwhelmed. Steven remained calm, unshaken. One reporter shouted, Marcus, is it true you want revenge? Marcus turned, his voice steady, grounded. No, I want growth. The room fell silent. Another reporter asked, so who's the better fighter? Marcus smiled, not to impress, but because he finally knew the answer. That depends on what you consider a fighter. If it's punching harder, lasting longer, or winning belts, then maybe me. But if it's understanding discipline, humility, restraint, and real martial arts, then he's miles ahead of me. Steven watched quietly, proud without showing it. A younger journalist stepped forward. Marcus, did he hurt you yesterday? Marcus shook his head. No, he saved me. People exchanged confused glances. Saved you from what? Someone asked. Marcus responded softly, from becoming the kind of man who believes he can't be taught. The room went still. For the first time, Marcus didn't care about headlines, reputation, likes, or followers. He cared about truth. Steven finally stepped forward. Marcus is already a great fighter. Now he has the chance to become a great man. The reporters captured every word, but this time, the story wasn't about humiliation, it was about transformation. The crowd outside began cheering Marcus's name, not as a symbol of dominance, but resilience. He stepped outside and waved, not arrogantly but gratefully. Days later, Marcus held a press conference. Everyone expected trash talk, hype, or a rematch announcement. Instead, he made a different declaration. Starting today, I'm training in traditional martial arts not to fight others, but to master myself. The internet exploded again, but this time with respect. People began sharing clips from the gym. The moment Steven didn't hit back, the moment Marcus fell, the moment he stood again stronger than before. His fan base didn't shrink, it evolved. A month later, Marcus returned to Steven's dojo, this time not as an opponent, not as a challenger, not as a headline, but as a student. Steven greeted him with a small nod. Ready. Marcus bowed deeply. I am now. They trained side by side day after day, and the more Marcus learned, the less he felt the need to prove anything. His punches became smoother, his movements became quieter, his mind became still. Fame brought him popularity, but humility brought him peace, and one evening after training, Marcus finally asked the question he had been holding inside. Why didn't you humiliate me when you had the chance? You could have destroyed me. Steven smiled gently. Because anyone can break another person, but it takes strength to build one. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes, not from pain, but gratitude. From that moment on, their relationship changed. They weren't rivals. They weren't opponents, they were teacher and student, warrior and mentor, human and human. Months passed, and Marcus began teaching younger fighters at the dojo not how to win fights, but how to win themselves. He never bragged again. He never claimed invincibility. He never disrespected another martial art, because now he understood true power is silent. One evening after class, Marcus stood outside and looked at the city lights below. Life hadn't changed dramatically. He still competed, still trained, still loved the sport, but something inside him had shifted forever. He whispered to himself, "Thank you, Steven. Steven, standing unseen behind him, replied quietly, "You did the work. I just opened the door." Marcus turned and smiled. "I'm proud to walk through it." Steven nodded, "Then keep walking." And he did, because the punch Marcus once believed would define his legacy, instead became the moment that rebuilt his soul. You're watching Smile and Scars, where stories remind us that sometimes the most powerful victories happen without a fight. If you enjoyed this journey, subscribe, because more incredible stories are on the way.